What are white label genetics? Are they any good? Who's growing them? And where are my glasses? These are the questions you may be asking yourself, and we're going to be answering them on this episode of CLtv. Stay tuned. This video is for educational purposes only, YouTube. This video is brought to you by AC Infinity. Now, whether it be air control, air quality, lighting, or your tent itself, or the entire kit, AC Infinity has got you locked down, and they continue to innovate time after time again with just amazing products. Now, their products go very fast, well, because they're in high demand. Supply and demand is a real thing, and when you got a supply that's as great as this, you better jump on it quick. And when you do, make sure you use CLtv at checkout and you'll save some money on your order. Big shout out to AC Infinity, and let's get to the video. Welcome to CLtv. My name is Rob, and we talk all things herb. In today's episode in particular, we're going to be talking a little bit about genetics, and white label genetics specifically. Now, there's a lot of different brands who are putting these out, and I don't think everybody really realizes what they are, good or bad, or even why they're made. So let's get into exactly what white labeling even is, because it's not just genetics in our industry, so to speak. This is a very common business practice, believe it or not. White labeling is a business practice in which a product's produced by one company and then is repackaged and sold by another company under its own brand name. The key aspect of white labeling is that the end product appears as though it's been produced by the brand selling it rather than the original manufacturer. This allows brands to offer products without having to invest in the research, development, and manufacturing processes. Instead, they can focus on branding, marketing, and just selling the product as a whole. Now, the manufacturer also benefits as well by selling their products in larger volumes, oftentimes to multiple companies, without the responsibility of marketing that actual product themselves. Now, when it comes to white labeling in the context of genetics for a bank, the process is pretty specific too. These banks often will sell seeds to various plants, including, but not limited to, agricultural crops, flowers, and in some areas, weed. Now, white labeling genetics in this context involves a breeder or genetic company developing a particular strain or genetic profile of a plant, which is then sold to a seed bank. The seed bank then markets and sells the seeds under its own brand name without necessarily disclosing the original breeder or genetic company that developed the original strain. This practice allows for seed banks to offer a wide variety of genetics without having to do a lot of the groundwork, essentially just making it available for the consumer, again, while partnering with a brand that's doing a lot of that work. For breeders and genetic companies, this arrangement helps them focus on the science and the art of breeding, leveraging the marketing and distribution networks of the banks to reach a wider audience. Now, the main thing is transparency and honesty. A lot of brands won't mention that this is an in-house product that they're white labeling or outsourcing. A lot of them will just put it out as their own. Even the homies Seedsman. I rock with them. That's the homies, of course. Discount code CLTV. On the other hand, there's brands like ILGM and World Queen that do this also, but in a little bit less of a transparent way. Having old school genetics like AK-47, White Widow, Cinderella 99, these are great that people are having replicas or white label versions. But oftentimes these are just pick and mix that people are calling whatever they'd like to call it. And this is all alleged, of course.
But please, don't sue us.
But I've seen more times than not when growing things like ILGM, they'll grow good, they'll germinate good, but it's just extremely generic, bland, flavorless flour. Now, this could just be the few experiences that I've had, or all the other ones that plenty of other people across the web have been talking about for years. But when it comes to white labeling genetics, they should be genetics that, of course, are highly sought after, but also highly vetted and making sure that they're going through the process of the vigorous work that we're not going to be getting some weak, midsy, potentially hermed out genetic in our garden. Now, what are a few reasons why somebody may want to get genetics that were white labeled rather than paying for top dollar branded genetics, we'll say? Well, I myself, personally, I'm going to want to get the creme de la creme, but others may want to go for affordability. Affordability and availability are two things that oftentimes need to overlap. Now, when it comes to genetics that are highly sought after, they're going to sell out very fast, and people aren't going to be able to maintain keeping the crop of these. When it comes to supply and demand, oftentimes when you have a very hot name, you'll have people like Copycat who will go and just make S1s and resell those as well. Now, is this a bad thing? I don't know. It's really up to the consumer. Now, on the other hand, you do have people who are making these white label genetics who are just pushing them out and allowing brands to rename them and relabel them. Now, when you're dealing with situations like that, like allegedly in Royal Queen seed situations, you may not necessarily be promoting the exact cultivar or the characteristics that that seed's supposed to be giving. In that case, it's not even a replica. That would be a knockoff.
This is whack. I can't get jiggy with this shit.
That's like getting the knockoff Jordans or Nikes that the sole falls off the bottom of. You don't want to have any soulless flour. This just isn't the goal. Now, of course, like I mentioned before, some brands actually do have that vetted process of quality assurance, and Seedsman definitely be one of those. On the other side of things, there's brands like Gorilla Seed Bank that have put out genetics from advanced feminized seeds that don't necessarily give you the results that you're looking for. They'll have the name, but it's not the smoke.
No flavor, no zest.
And that's something that's just a major letdown for me. Now, as homegrowers, of course, we want something that not only just germinates properly and doesn't herm out on us, but we also want some good smoke, and we want it to be what we're paying for. Now, when working with companies like Franklin Fields,
You guys are fucking nerds, Brad.
we did white label things for people in the past, and oftentimes it was very transparent. It'd say produced by Franklin Fields, and it would be that company's brand name on there. And their main thing is they're just trying to hand off the marketing, branding, and selling. They're going to work on dialing in that product and making it the best product possible. As where the other side, the partner in the company, can do all the marketing and the branding. But the main thing that's lacking in a lot of today's game is transparency. Now, have you grown some white label genetics or what some people would call knockoff genetics? Let me know in the comment section. I think a lot of people have a misconception, maybe a negative misconception about what white labeling is, and specifically when it comes to genetics. And if you're not sure what genetics to be growing, well, we've made multiple videos on this subject up here. Here's an entire playlist. You can find some of the best stuff out right now from the past and what may be coming in the future. With that being said, stay lifted. Peace.